Think we're ready to go? Good morning. It is 11 o'clock and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Members of the public have been invited to participate in this meeting of council by attending in person at the council chambers at the municipal office located at 10227 Ilderton Road in Coldstream, or by contacting the municipal clerk to receive a registration link to join the meeting electronically. Members of the public may also access our meeting live stream on the Middlesex Centre YouTube channel. Before we get going, I'd like to make a couple of remarks. First of all, I'd like to extend congratulations to Sophie. Sophie Basarovich is Middlesex Centre's Communications and Legislative Services Administrative Assistant, and she recently completed the Association of Municipal Managers, Clerks and Treasurers of Ontario, that's the AMCTO, the Municipal Administration Program. This well-respected program builds on a foundation in municipal governance, financial management, and leadership. Through her studies, she's gained valuable knowledge in municipal operations, along with strengthened research and analysis skills. This is a significant accomplishment and reflects Sophie's dedication to learning and serving our community. So congratulations, Sophie, on a job well done. Okay. The municipality of Middlesex Centre recognizes that we are gathering on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Lenni Lenape peoples. We acknowledge the enduring presence of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people on this land and are committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. Our neighboring First Nations communities continue to live as sovereign nations and include the Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and Munsee Delaware Nation. There are no additions to the agenda for this meeting of August 5th. I'd look to council. Are there any members of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, then the next item is the recommendation for the minutes, and that is that the minutes of the June 26th, 2026 special meeting of council and the minutes of the July 15th, 2026 regular meeting of council be approved as presented. It is moved by Councillor Cates and Deputy Mayor Brennan. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. We can move to the consent agenda. We have 7 items here. Oh yeah, I did miss one. 7 items. Is there anything here anyone would like to speak to or comment on? Okay, I'll start with Councillor Cates. Go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I'm just not exactly sure on the procurement. Under the risk portion of it, I was trying to think of a scenario of how it would, what's different than now. Would it be like if you were relying on them for an answer and they didn't give you one and then that period of time went by? I think that's just what I have in my notes. What if they're not available? So I see that it'll still follow the same process, but maybe you're asking them for another opinion and maybe they aren't going to get back to you. So I'm not quite sure who that's to, but that's what Tiffany, that's what my thinking was. Thank you.
Oh, so thank you. So through you, Mayor DeVete. So the risk aspect would be, yeah, so there is the aspect of timing. So they don't have a specific process for, say, a first come, first serve, or if they don't have the capacity to service or answer the question in a time frame that we would need, they wouldn't be able to provide us with that. The risk more, the other aspect of the risk is more on the fact that there is the indemnity aspect. So although they'd be providing professional advice, they are not taking the responsibility for that professional advice. So we do have to make sure that we take that into account when we're looking at certain things. The risk is mitigated here. So normally, especially if there is a large procurement that we're doing, we do work with external consultants. As well, if there is any issues, we loop in our own legal team. Outsourced, not we don't have one in-house, but that we would double check with as well. So that is where we're going to mitigate it. But I do think that having access, and right now we have had access to utilize the county staff for procurement, and we do plan to utilize it a little bit more each year. And we have some different projects that are planned for 2027 that we'll be working with them on. And I think overall it is a positive, but we do want council to just be aware. But we would mitigate that as much as possible.
Thank
Thank you.
Councillor Coles.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor DeVite. I do have another question for Tiffany on that 7.4. But first, I want to just say for 7.1, just again, thank you to Glenn Powell for the donation for our cemeteries. They are very much appreciated. But going back to 7.4, Tiffany, my question is just regarding the indemnity. So as far as that goes, I want to know if we could look at a reciprocal indemnity. Was that ever considered? And is there a possibility of adding that? Thank you.
So through you, Mayor DeVite, we did talk about, and I think other municipalities as well brought that up with the county, but they weren't looking at expanding the agreement in any way around the indemnity clause, unfortunately.
Deputy, go ahead.
Yeah, my question's for Rob on the rehabilitation of the Arva Dam. And just want to go into a little bit more detail on the option that you're suggesting we go with.
Through the mayor to the deputy mayor. So I'll start off and Andrew can jump in because he's been dealing with the consultant directly too. But the option that we're recommending is the hybrid option, which is the steel and the glass reinforced. And we did have the consultant run some analysis. So because they're lining it, the cross-sectional area for the conveyance is going to be slightly smaller than what it currently is, but it's going to be a smooth wall pipe instead of corrugated. So that helps make up some of the difference. By using the glass reinforced at the one end, they can keep that size a bit bigger. And so it helps reduce the hydraulic losses through the pipe. So the intent is to try to have a similar capacity to what's currently there. And if we go to the steel only, which is the cheapest of the three options, I think it was, or the glass only, it's the capacity comes down somewhat. So the option that's being proposed, although the most expensive of the three, is the one that matches the existing capacity the closest. I'm not sure if you want to add anything, Andrew.
Through the mayor to Deputy Mayor Brennan. Yeah, the only thing I would add is that there are also steel struts in there as well that are provide some form of structural support to that culvert. So the steel sleeve with the hybrid option is the one that best supports that continued structural support through the length of the culvert as well.
Just to follow up, Madam Mayor, like, will the water still gets diverted to the mill so that if they want to run on water power, they could still be able to do that?
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor Brennan, yes, the water would still make its way to the mill as it does now. We would have some additional energy dissipation measures at the end of the pipe after the smooth wall pipe because the velocities will be slightly increased, but downstream there should be no noticeable impact.
Thank you.
Councillor Arts.
Through you, Madam Mayor, this is also directed to Rob and Andrew. This pipe, it's going to work because we still have culvert that's there. It's still structurally round. So I'd really appreciate the sooner you get it done, the better, because if we wait too long and that starts to squash, it's not going to be a fun day. So thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, I just wanted to jump back quickly to the previous 7.4 item, and it's mostly a comment. I wanted, well, our question as well for the CAO. Is there a process at the end of the year to assess how things went and what could be improved? I guess my discomfort partially addressed, partially not addressed, not fully addressed. When I see that virtually in every box in a column, it makes me wonder what steps or how do we move to more addressed and less ambiguous pieces in the agreement?
So through you, Mayor DeVite, that's a great question. With respect to the agreement, so county, the county procurement and county legal had sent over the agreement for any of our comments, and we did provide a significant amount. However, they reviewed them in combination with all the other municipalities that provided comments, but they were taking the county lens, like when they're looking at it versus us looking at it as a lower tier. But so we can definitely follow up with them and see how the year went. This is the first year that they are doing it with an agreement. So I think that the suggestion of doing like a follow-up and then a report to council, and at the beginning of every year, we do report on our procurement activity, so we can add that in. And hopefully the county can look at adding some of these clauses into the agreement for the future, and we can continue those discussions.
Okay, thank you. I think looking at lessons learned and experience that actually happened when we hit the ground running kind of thing is worthwhile. So thanks for that update. If there's nothing else, then we do have a motion before us that all of the items listed under the heading of consent agenda for August 5th, 2026 be adopted as recommended. I have Councillor Coles and Councillor Arts. Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, now we can move on to staff reports. And the first item is, again, with our Director of Public Works and Engineering. It's the ARVA Interim Control Bylaw Update. When you're ready, Rob.
Yes, thank you. So through the mayor to council, this is an update on the work we've been doing on the sanitary flows in ARVA. So back in March, the interim control bylaw was passed, and in April we had started the servicing utilization optimization study within ARVA. So we had started a process of monitoring the flows at various locations within ARVA, and then the locations have been moved around, trying to pinpoint some inflow activity within the system, as well as looking at some mechanical equipment that needed to be replaced. I think, as we had previously identified, the plan was to replace the existing pump that was there, so that we could get more specific data from the pump, and that the one that was there, I believe it's about 30 years old. So it turns out, going through that process, that of replacing the pump, that there was I believe it was a check valve that was not functioning fully, and that it turns out that we believe that we were double counting some of the sewage flows. As a result, the new pump now allows us to know if there's essentially a negative flow coming through the system. So if there's ever a future failure, we'll pick it up right away. With that alone, we believe that we have essentially achieved a reduction in the flows back to where we were historically. As well, Eric and his team have undertaken some measures to restore some of the manholes and a couple of sanitary lines where there was small leaks that would allow some infiltration into the system. We think that's a smaller impact. There is still work ongoing, with the belief that there is some additional I&I happening potentially at the east end of the system that we're looking into further. It's not expected to lower the flows significantly, like not 10% or something like that, but that we are hoping to tighten up the system a little bit further. But at this point, given where we're at with 3 months of data, we are comfortable with council supporting lifting of the interim control bylaw. As Stephanie noted in the report, though, because the ICBL has been appealed to the OLT, is that council cannot actually lift it, but it's just a recommendation that will then be sent to the OLT to have that lifted. And then hopefully next week, there's a case management conference that we can see where that goes from there. So any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you for that report. Questions? Go ahead, Deputy.
Thank you. To you, to Rob. Part of the reason we put the interim bylaw in was not only because we were exceeding flows, but we didn't have the capacity to do a lot more. So by lifting that, is that sending a signal to perhaps York Developments that they can go ahead, but we wouldn't have near enough capacity for them, would we?
So through the mayor and deputy mayor, so those two separate issues. So the interim control bylaw was not put into place because of York Development. It was put into place because we were exceeding flows. So that by reducing flows back to where they were historically, we know that we now have some capacity in place, some reserve capacity available, that say if York Development did go forward, it would far exceed the existing capacity. But there is capacity there for either perhaps a small phase of your work or for other infill developments that come forward. And we do know that there are a couple properties within ARBA that are interested in moving forward with small site plans. So similar to earlier in the year, we brought in the servicing allocation policy. So now that we have this, we will track as we allocate flows to any developments that come in and get, say, site plan approval or subdivision approval. And then at that point, if we reach capacity again, we would have to bring the interim control bylaw back into place. It would be like, or look at other measures.
Thank you.
Councillor Burris, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor DeVito, to Rob. So we haven't established a new baseline then, have we? Like we got the new equipment in. What do you think? 3 months before you say, yeah, this is our new baseline. It's below that. It's below the capacity that we've established with the city. Can you comment on that?
Yes. So I think pretty quickly we were fairly confident that we had found the issue, but we wanted to have enough data to know that it was staying there. So the 3 months of data, we're comfortable that flows have dropped from what we were seeing in 24, 25 and are more along that historical trend. However, there are dry weather seasons and wet weather seasons. So we really need to see through the winter and spring what the wet weather seasons are to know where our reserve capacity sits. But I'm still comfortable that will remain below the 175 cubic meters, that threshold currently. Yeah.
So just to say, yeah, that's good work that was done there. I think it helped us actually to find those leaks. So that's all I wanted to say. Good work on that.
Go ahead, Councillor Coles.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, I have a question for Rob as well. So similar to what's already been discussed, the report states that we have 3 months of information. I'm just wondering, because of those higher flow seasons we haven't seen yet, is there any possibility, or is it prudent for us to wait for those seasons to come so we can see what that capacity looks like? Because I believe the bylaw is a 1 year, possibly 2 years. So we do have time. I'm just wondering why we can't wait on it and why we're trying to push forward. Thank you.
So through the mayor to Councillor Coles, that would certainly be an option to wait. Again, that's why we didn't rush to bring a report back to council looking to recommend lifting it. We feel that the 3 months of data that we have are enough to justify that we're back to the historical flows. So based on that, we're kind of projecting that the wet weather flows through the spring and winter will still follow those historical trends and be below the 175. The reason to lift it now is one is because we do know that there are properties that they're looking to submit applications that currently cannot do anything and would like to move forward. So again, certainly council's option to wait longer until we have that, say another 6 months of data through the spring. So.
Anyone else? I don't see any lights on, so we do have a motion before us. The recommendation is that report PWE number 40, 2026 regarding ARVA interim control bylaw update be received, and further that council direct staff to submit correspondence to the Ontario Land Tribunal confirming its intention to repeal interim control bylaw 2026 number 11 on the basis that it is no longer required based on preliminary results of the ARVA sanitary servicing utilization and optimization study. And I have Councillor Shipley and Deputy Mayor Brennan. Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we can now move on to 8.2, and our Director of Emergency Services and Fire Chief Colin Toth is going to talk about shared fire services agreements.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Council. Mayor, through you, before you is Fire Services report talking about shared fire service agreement between Strathroy-Caradoc and Middlesex Centre Fire for your consideration. Under the agreement, we would provide water rescue services in receiving aerial support in return. We do have a partial agreement right now. It covers more water side of things. But this would bring that aerial piece into it as well. The primary changes are in detail and response, basically. And we clarify certification, maintenance, and expectations. The one thing that it does cover that it hasn't in the past, and a lot of our automatic aid and our fire service agreements have not covered in the past is cost recovery. So this one talks to a $2,500 cost recovery. So we provide it, we invoice them $2,500, they provide us, they invoice us. A thing that I'd like to note is a lot of the automatic aid agreements and service agreements that I will be bringing to you in the next little while do have cost recovery options. And as you can all appreciate, budgets are strained, and cost recovery, I think, is important to at least explore. And it is common now in the fire service. So as I mentioned, there is a couple more that I'm going to be bringing to you that do have this cost recovery model. In my report, I did talk about the inevitability of us requiring an aerial. So as we grow bigger, as we get tall buildings, or high buildings, as we like to call them in the industry, and more hazards, industrial, larger commercial, the way these structures are built, they do fail quickly. Therefore, we do not send our firefighters inside. And to get to those flames, we need to get up over top. Rescue, high angle rescue, there's a lot of uses for an aerial, not just the common misconception of putting the aerial up and, people come marching out on the platform or the ladder. That's not common. One thing that Councillor Arts brought up that I thank you, that I should have clarified a little more in my report. I noted the cost of an aerial at 1.8 million, and we do have it capitalized for 2.3 in our projected capital for 2029. So the reason that I put 1.8 is at this time we are starting to look at different options already, and the 1.8 covers a few used apparatus that we have been looking at. But that does not include a platform. It's just basically an aerial, a ladder with 100-foot with obviously with the deck on top, or the nozzle on top. I think that covers it. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that. Are there questions? Councillor Shipley?
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, thank you, Mayor. Through the mayor to Colin. Chief, is there any chance we can get an agreement with London? Take the north end, northeast end, like, obviously, I don't think we could reciprocate anything, but paid by the hour. Is there a chance of getting that looked into?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Shipley, absolutely. So we are exploring a number of options with London and some of our surrounding. That's all I really have to bring at this point, but we are exploring it. We do have another agreement with London that's been vetted and will be coming on in our first September meeting. So we are exploring it, definitely.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I had one quick question. I'm not sure if it's for you or for the accounting group, but the amounts that you mentioned in terms of a fixed charge, 2,500, that's kind of a small pass thing. But on the other hand, when you add these things up, 2,500 here, we don't get one most years, but we might get one. Is there a line in, or is a line planned in the budget to have some funding so that if we have 2 hits in 1 year, that 2,500 and something bigger, that we can cover these things? Or what are your thoughts on how we can make sure we're prepared?
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, through you. Seeing this agreement is new, and a number of agreements are new. We are definitely budgeting it and accounting for it in 2027 moving forward.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. If there's nothing else, then we do have a recommendation before us that report FES number 4, 2026 regarding shared fire services agreement Strathroy Caradoc and Middlesex Centre be received, and further that council authorizes the mayor and fire chief to execute the shared services agreement between the municipality of Middlesex Centre and the municipality of Strathroy Caradoc for the reciprocal provision of aerial apparatus and water rescue services. I have Councillor Burrs and Councillor Coles. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we can move on now to the Coldstream Kitchen budget, and Melissa Copel, Acting Director of Finance, is going to present that report for us. When you're ready.
Thank you. Through Mayor DeVete to Council, this report requests a 2026 budget amendment of $75,459.17 for the Coldstream Kitchen Renewal Project, funded from the Building and Facilities Reserve Fund. This amendment does not represent a new project. It simply provides the necessary budget approval to account for a project that was already previously approved. So council, yourself, has already approved $98,800 for this project in the 2025 budget. While work has began in 2025, the project was delayed due to staffing changes, operation priorities, and scheduling requirements. Because completion was anticipated in 2025, the remaining funding was omitted from the 2026 capital carry forward process. Now the project is complete and the cost totaled $116,322.40, approximately $17,500 over the original budget. The project exceeded the original budget by that amount simply because they expanded the scope of the project. So we included the renovations to the bar area to match the design properties of the rest of the kitchen. And we also completed the kitchen ceiling tiles. So the recommendation before council is to amend the 2026 budget to recognize the project costs and to fund them through the Building and Facilities Reserve Fund. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that report. I see Councillor Burrs.
Yeah, just a comment. I remember when the municipal office was being completed and the community center wasn't in the budget to buff it up, and the kitchen. This is just a comment. This is our flagship site, so it looks great. I think we had to do it. Long overdue, very positive. And as we go through time, people have to remember, and I tell them that it's always going to be more expensive in the future when you do it then. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, and just to comment on what Councillor Burrs says too, I know that the people who are using the facility are really very pleased with it and approve of the changes. So they were due. I guess that's the way to put it. So we have a recommendation before us that report CPS number 45, 2026 regarding the Coldstream Kitchen Budget Amendment Report be received, and further that the 2026 budget be amended to include the Coldstream Kitchen Renewal Project account number 25-7222 at a budgeted cost of $75,459.17 with the funds to be withdrawn from the Building and Facilities Reserve Fund. Councillor Cates and Councillor Shipley, thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we don't have any notices of motion today. We have 4 correspondence items. Is there any council member wishing to comment on these? I have Councillor Cates. Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering, the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus letter, should we be doing a motion to support that? I would like to do a motion to support their letter. It does say something in there about, yes.
Okay, so you would like to make a motion to support then, Sue? Okay.
Yes. I was thinking there was something in the letter that I could read off, but yes, I'd like to make a motion that we support the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus resolution resuming Ontario property assessment cycle.
Thank you for that. Councillor Burrs seconding. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried, not opposed. Okay, thank you for doing that. Is there anything else in this item? No? Okay. In that case, we do have a recommendation before us that all items listed under the heading of correspondence be received for information. And further that do we have to make any comment about the other one that we've now?
No, we
No?
can.
Okay.
just receive. Yeah.
All right, so we'll have that motion as printed. Councillor Burrs and Councillor Cates, thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Do we have announced? We don't have a council update.
No.
No, still to come. Yes. Okay, so now we can, the next item on our agenda is a closed session. So we have a recommendation that the council for the Municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourn to closed session at 11:29 a.m. pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss the following matters. One item pursuant to section 239(2)E, respecting litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals. And this is an Ontario Lands Tribunal Appeals update. And one item pursuant to section 239(2)B, with respect to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And this has to do with the CAO performance evaluation. Motion to Councillor Coles, thank you, and Councillor Arts. And I'll call the vote. All in favor?